I confess that in 1901 I said to my brother Orville that man would not fly for 50 years, said Wilbur Wright. It is hard to believe that history changed forever at the desolate landscape of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. But on a windy day on December 17, 1903, at 10:35 a.m., the Wright brothers did just that. For the first time in history, man flew a heavier-than-air aircraft. On that day, the boundaries of oceans and distances disappeared. The Wright brothers began the age of flight, and because of this, they have changed history more than any other inventors. Wilbur Wright was born on April 16, 1867. His brother, Orville, was born on August 19, 1871. Their father, Milton Wright, was a bishop who traveled around preaching sermons. In 1878, Milton gave the brothers a rubber band-powered airplane, which originally sparked their interest in flight. The Wright family moved to 7 Hawthorne Street in Dayton, Ohio later that year. In the summer of 1889, their mother, Susan Wright, fell ill with tuberculosis and died. Wilbur dropped out of high school later that year, starting his own print shop, printing the West Side News. In 1895, the Wright brothers started to make their own bicycles, named the Van Cleves and the St. Clair. During 1897, the Wright Cycle Company was formed. The Wright brothers made $3,000 that year, which was enough to start funding them to start flying. They started testing their own gliders in Kitty Hawk during 1900 and 1901, but the gliders did not glide well and could not be steered. Between 1901 and 1902, the Wright brothers built a wind tunnel and solved their gliders' control issues to make the first fully controllable aircraft. The Wrights built the Wright Flyer 1 in the winter of 1902 and 1903. They also worked with their mechanic, Charlie Taylor, to build a light gasoline-powered engine to power the Flyer 1. The brothers left for Kitty Hawk, North Carolina on September 23rd. On December 14, 1903, Wilbur made a hop of 112 feet in 4 seconds. The flight ended with a damaged front elevator assembly when the plane crashed into the ground. On the morning of December 17th at around 10 o'clock, the winds were gusting at 22 to 27 miles an hour. 5 spectators watched as the Wrights prepared for their first flight of the day. At 10:35, Orville took off at around 8 to 9 miles an hour. Winds battered at the plane, causing it to dip up and down while Orville tried to keep control of it. The flight only lasted 120 feet in 12 seconds before the plane nose dipped into the ground. It was shorter than a Boeing 747's wingspan, but man, for the first time in history, had flown.
They didn't start with a new design over and over again, but built on one design until they got it right. If you look at the models of the Flyers, they were all very similar. The wingspan of the 1903 Flyer 1 was 48.3 feet, and its length was 21.1 feet. And the wingspan of the 1905 Flyer 3, just 2 years later, was 40.5 feet, and its length was 28 feet, very similar in length and width.
The brothers went back to Dayton, Ohio. In 1904, they built the Wright Flyer 2. In 1905, after improving on their Flyer 2, they decided to make a new airplane, named the Flyer 3. The Wrights allowed spectators to watch their flights on October 5th. 1905. The longest flight made that day was by Wilbur, covering 24 miles in 39 minutes. He only stopped when he ran out of fuel. Reporters suddenly exploded with attention for the Wrights, which, up to this point, had none. In order to protect their ideas, the Wrights secured patent number 821,393 to a flying machine, on May 22nd, 1906.
At the time, there were a lot of competitors. There were many aviators at the time who were trying to invent something that could fly. There was Samuel P. Langley. He created an aerodrome, which ended up crashing into the Potomac River, sadly. There was Archdeacon and many French aviators who tried to recreate the Wright flyers just in order to make money. And then there was Glenn Curtiss, and he ended up fighting with the Wrights in the patent war because of the use of wing warp-like ailerons in his aircraft, which was a patent infringement on the Wright brothers. So yeah, lots of people were trying to either be successful with their own flying crafts or, in a way, steal from the Wright brothers.
In 1908, Wilbur traveled to Europe, flying in France, the United Kingdom, Spain, and Italy. His flight stunned the continent and proved that the Wrights are truly the first to fly. The president of the Aeronautical Society of Great Britain, Major B.F.S. Baden-Powell, said that Wilbur Wright is in possession of a power which controls the fate of nations is beyond dispute. Meanwhile, Orville stayed in the United States, building an airplane at Fort Myer, Virginia, for the U.S. military. On September 17th, Orville crashed during a passenger flight when the propeller split in midair, killing his passenger, Lieutenant Thomas Selfridge, and badly injuring himself.
People didn't believe the Wright brothers had flown first because there were many people before them who claimed they had flown before, but who unfortunately failed to do so in public.
In 1909, after Orville had recovered, the brothers returned to the United States, where they were greeted everywhere as heroes. On July 30th, 1909, Orville flew the first military airplane in Fort Myer, Virginia, going at about 42.6 miles an hour. The brothers received $30,000 for that plane. Wilbur flew up and down New York to celebrate its 300th anniversary on October 4th. For 33 minutes, New Yorkers gave their salute to Wilbur as he flew up the Hudson River and down Manhattan Island. During the fall of 1909, the Wright brothers started the Wright Company, which built airplanes at a factory. The brothers also started the airplane industry. By 1911, the Wrights no longer had the best airplane in the business. On May 30th, 1912, Wilbur Wright passed away from typhoid fever. At the end of 1916, Orville, the successor of the Wright Company, sold the airplane company and all of the brothers' patents to New York investors for $250,000. Until 1942, Orville fought with the Smithsonian Institution, who had exaggerated Langley's aerodrome and gave little attention to the Wrights, until the Smithsonian gave the Wrights their rightful place. Orville's last project was rebuilding the Wright Flyer 3, and on January 30th, 1948, Orville died from a heart attack. Orville Wright once said, "Isn't it astonishing that all these secrets have been preserved for so many years just so we could discover them? The Wright brothers have had the greatest impact in history. Airplanes are now a large part of the U.S. Armed Forces, for delivery systems and for transportation. The Wrights have shown that ordinary people can rise to open up a new age of exploration. They have shown the world that flight, which had eluded man for so long, could finally happen."